Stop thinking all the time. The reason that you cannot focus and you procrastinate all the time is because of a structural flaw that you have within your day-to-day. It doesn't matter if you think you have some kind of undiagnosed ADHD that realistically you've actually just heard as kind of a buzzword. You don't really understand how ADHD even works. You've never read a scientific paper or a journal about it. You've heard that as a buzzword and you're using that as a cope, as an easy option to take the comfortable route. Are you really going to cave that easily? Even if I grant you that there's some reason that you simply, as an individual, for some reason you're special and you just can't focus for some reason, I'll grant you that. But are you really going to let that stop you? Are you going to cave so easily? Something you need to understand about human psychology is that it is far, far easier and always the option taken for you to find some kind of nobility in your actions right now than to actually take accountability and to say to yourself and to acknowledge, I am weak in some kind of area. This is something I need to improve. It is extremely difficult to do that, even if you can formalize that as words. To truly believe that is extremely rare. It is far easier to say that the person that goes to the gym is vain and cares too much about the way they look than it is to actually go and become that person. It is far easier to say that there is some kind of nobility in the fact that you have some kind of individual genetic thing from the sky that means that you can't focus than it is to actually just acknowledge that there is something you are weak in, there is something that you right now aren't doing as well as you could be, and you use that as the easy path. The good news is that even if you acknowledge your weakness, there is always something you can do about it. There is always something you can do to improve. So how do you tackle this issue? Well, firstly, I just want to say that if you stayed until this point in the video, then first of all, there is more hope for you than anyone else that clicked off right now. Anyone that got angry at what I just said and clicked off the video, first of all, I didn't want them on this video anyway. For those of you who stayed, you at least now have the courage to admit that there is something that you are not as good at. There is something that you can improve in. And the very fact that you have stayed to this point in the video and the fact that you are still willing to listen about something that you could do to improve that is the first step in and of itself. The first action step you can take right now is to subscribe to the channel, because I have and will continue to upload videos just like this one, where I will go through in rigorous detail every inefficiency that you are currently experiencing or will go on to experience when it comes to studying, learning, and understanding how your brain actually operates. So what do we do? The first thing you need to understand as a reframing of your mental model is that within your brain exists two people. There is the manager and there is the worker. This is how every organization functions anyway. This is how things get done. The reason that you're procrastinating right now, or you cannot focus as much as you want to, is because you're conflating the roles of these two people. You're trying to do everything that the worker and the manager does at the same time. This means that when you're going to do a task which the worker should be doing, like completing the homework sheet or doing the past paper, you're subconsciously in your mind doing the metacognition, the meta decision making of whether this task is actually efficient, whether you should be doing this instead of that, how long you should be taking on this thing. These are all managerial tasks that you should not be concerning yourself with as the worker. The manager part of your brain needs a dedicated time and space to make decisions about everything that you do for the worker, everything that happens throughout the day. And the worker part of your brain needs to know its place, essentially. It needs to know when to shut up, when to just do the work that it has been assigned by the manager. Think about it this way, in some kind of organization, if the worker, every time he was assigned some kind of task by the manager, went back to the manager and started arguing with him about the fact that this is kind of slightly inefficient, or he doesn't really agree with this and that, and he did this every single day, he would get fired very quickly. Now, a very easy trap that you could fall into here, and that you may have already fallen into, is that you believe you all are already doing this. Why do you believe you're already doing this? Because at the end of the day, right before you go to bed, when you're supposed to be calm and relaxed and not really thinking about anything, you start to think about what you're going to do the next day. So when you're literally laying in bed, before you go to sleep, you think, okay, I'm going to do this task then, and then I have a lesson at 3, and then after the lesson, I'm going to do the homework sheet, and after the homework sheet, I'm going to go play football for an hour, and then come back and do the past paper, etc., etc. This is not what I mean. The problem with that is, aside from the fact that you probably do this right before you go to sleep when you shouldn't be thinking about anything really, but the other problem with this is that this is just a notion in your head. There's no concreteness to it. There's nothing to actually hold you accountable to do all of those things come morning time. In fact, by the morning and by the time that it's time to do all these things, you probably would have forgotten many of the things that you said to do. And secondly, there's nothing to hold you accountable. It's very easy to rationalize your way out of any given thing that you had a 2-minute idea that you were supposed to do right before you went to bed. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you said you were going to do the homework sheet tomorrow at 3:30, and then it comes to 3:30 and actually everyone's going to the restaurant and you decide to go with them. And that's fine, by the way. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the restaurant, but what you will do in your mind, instead of saying there was a change of plans, you will try and rationalize it, right? You'll say, the sheet wasn't really that important anyway, and I'll do it tomorrow instead. And the point is that it never ends up actually happening, that the accountability is not there. You are not honest with yourself, and there is nowhere to actually have a concrete report of what you were thinking anyway. So it's very easy to forget things and try and change things after the fact, even though you know that it's not what you meant at the time. And the very simple way that you can avoid this and fix this is to dedicate some kind of block of time, probably in the morning, to the managerial part of your brain and make it concrete. The manager part of your brain should have 20 minutes dedicated in the morning, for example, with an actual piece of paper and a pen or a notepad on your laptop, whatever it is, to make a solid document of everything that the manager is thinking right now. So the manager could be thinking, I need to do XYZ tasks in XYZ order at this time. You need to make an actual note of that. The reason that you make the note of this, there's 2 main functions that this serves. The first is that you take accountability for everything you do, because it's very easy to say, I didn't really mean it like that, or it wasn't too serious when there's no note of it. If you have written down very specifically, this task needs to be done today, and you have it in literal writing, it is extremely more difficult to then go and not take accountability for that. So even if you don't end up doing the task, you can at least see, okay, there was a task, I was supposed to do it and I didn't. That's a flaw, but we can work with that, right? Rather than trying to cope and rationalize your way out of it. And the second main flaw that this addresses, the second main fix that writing this down gives, is that now you have a literal structure to everything that you do. Everything is formally written down. There is no forgetting to do this task after that one. Everything is there, everything is always readily accessible. That's all I have to say for today. I really hope you take action on some of the things I've spoken about in this video. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one. Thank you and have a nice day.